Welcome back to our series on the evidence of evolution. In the previous episode, we explored biogeography, the study of how species are distributed around the world. In this video, we'll focus on another fascinating line of evidence: comparative anatomy. Comparative anatomy examines the similarities and differences in the structures of living organisms. By studying how body parts are built and arranged, scientists can trace shared ancestry and understand how different species have adapted to their environments over millions of years. Comparative anatomy is the study of how the physical structures of organisms compare to one another. It provides powerful evidence for evolution because many species share structural features that point to a common evolutionary origin, even though these structures may serve very different functions today. Their underlying design often reveals a shared blueprint inherited from ancestral species. One of the strongest forms of evidence for evolution comes from homologous structures. These are body parts that have similar anatomical features and origins, but may perform different functions in different species. Homologous structures show that different organisms have evolved from a common ancestor and adapted these structures to suit their own lifestyles. For example, the forelimbs of vertebrates, such as the human arm, the bat's wing, the whale's flipper, and the cat's leg, have the same basic bone arrangement. One upper arm bone, the humerus, two forearm bones, the radius and ulna, and similar wrist and finger bones. Despite their different functions, grasping, flying, swimming, or walking, the underlying structure is nearly identical. This shared pattern points to an ancestral vertebrate species that had a similar limb structure, which later diversified through adaptive evolution. Adaptive radiation is an evolutionary process where a single ancestral species rapidly diversifies into many new species, each adapted to a different ecological niche. We will discuss adaptive radiation in our upcoming episode. Not all similarities indicate common ancestry. Some arise because unrelated species evolve similar adaptations to cope with similar environments or lifestyles. These are called analogous structures. For example, the wings of a bird and the wings of an insect both serve the same function: flight, but they evolved independently. A bird's wing has bones, muscles, and feathers, while an insect's wing is a thin membrane supported by veins. These differences show that their similarity results from convergent evolution, in which unrelated organisms develop similar traits because they live in comparable environments or face similar challenges. Analogous structures demonstrate how natural selection shapes organisms to function efficiently in similar ecological niches, even in the absence of shared ancestry. Another fascinating aspect of comparative anatomy is the presence of vestigial structures, body parts that have lost most or all of their original function through evolution. These remnants are like footprints left behind by evolution, reminding us of our species' past forms and functions. For example, in humans, the appendix is a vestigial remnant of a lagocecum once used by our herbivorous ancestors to digest cellulose from plants. Whales and snakes both have small internal pelvic bones, even though they no longer have hind limbs. Flightless birds, like ostriches and kiwis, still have tiny, useless wings that show their descent from flying ancestors. Vestigial structures only make sense when viewed through evolution. They are inherited from ancestors where the structures were functional. Comparative anatomy extends beyond adult structures. Even embryos tell an evolutionary story. In early development, embryos of different vertebrates show remarkable similarities, suggesting a shared evolutionary origin. For example, the embryos of fish, chickens, pigs, and humans all have pharyngeal pouches, similar to gill slits, and tail structures at certain stages. In fish, these develop into gills, while in mammals, they form parts of the ear and throat. These shared developmental features indicate that vertebrates inherited a common set of genetic instructions from a distant ancestor. Comparative embryology shows that developmental pathways are deeply conserved, even though the adult forms of animals can look dramatically different. While comparative anatomy deals with physical structures, modern molecular biology confirms these relationships at the genetic level. DNA comparisons show that species with similar anatomical features also share more genetic similarities, reinforcing the evidence from morphology. For example, the genetic sequences that control limb development are highly conserved among vertebrates, further supporting the idea of a shared ancestor. Comparative anatomy reveals the deep structural relationships among living things. From the bones in our arms to the vestiges of tails and the echoes of gill slits in our embryos, the evidence is everywhere. Our bodies are records of evolution written in anatomy. Our bones, our organs, even our development, all tell the same story. The story of life's shared origins and endless change. Thanks for watching this episode on the evidence of evolution. In our next episode, we will examine another piece of evidence for evolution. Until then, happy learning.